So, hello and welcome to Intuitive Connection. Today, we are addressing a listener question, and it's a good one. This listener has recently lost a loved one, and in their grief, they said they feel that their vibe is too low to connect with their loved one, and they found this to be very distressing. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about, is that really true? Do we have to have a really high vibe, quote unquote, to connect with our loved ones and those in spirit? And also, what can we do, right, when we are having so much emotional distress that we're not able to feel connected? All right, let's do it. Today's episode is all about an email I got from a listener. And please keep those emails coming, friends. Do know that I unfortunately am not able to give you readings via email for free. And I'm also not able to answer really long questions, or give you really long answers to your questions via email, but keep them coming for a couple of reasons. One, I will always respond and send you my love. And two, a lot of times the questions that you're asking, even if we can't address them in an email, and we can always address them in a session or a class or those kinds of things. So lots of offerings there too. But keep the questions coming, because chances are, if you have a question like that, other listeners of the show have a question like that. And I'm happy to answer them on the show, because I know that they'll benefit so many. And that's what happened with this one. And the question was, this person said, I've contacted my loved one through several mediums, but my vibe is just too low and I'm just too sad and I can't reach them. And, what do I do? And the first thing I want to say is, we sometimes, think about vibration, right? Like, you're a low vibe or you're a high vibe, or you're good or you're bad. And what you have to know is that we are all right exactly where we're meant to be. It's vibration level is not, it's not like your credit score, which also you are exactly where you need to be. Love yourself no matter what. But again, it's not like some external standard or bar that you have to meet. It doesn't make you better than someone else. And also, the guides say we all have mixed vibrations, right? So there's going to be some topics and some subjects and sometimes where, our vibration is going to go up and down accordingly. And, after a loss, they say it can be a big opportunity for opening, for spiritual opening, because when we have a loved one on the other side, it can often like create a bridge between us and spirit, right? More so, it opens our heart to that connection. We long for them, we want to connect with them, and in so doing, we can actually open a portal, a hole, a little hole in the veil, right, where we can connect more in the best possible way. Right. But also, in our grief, sometimes we are processing so much on this side that it is not practical or even valuable for us to immediately connect with our loved ones, especially not the way we connected with them in human form. And the guides are reminding me that, sometimes it's important for us to mourn the human loss first, before we go looking for them on the other side. It's not that they're not there, because they're always there and they're always loving us. And once we cross over, right, all of the masks and layers and confusions that we have garnered through our human conditioning, all the things that get in the way of us fully expressing and receiving unconditional love in the human plane, those things, they're gone. They're gone. And so there's nothing but unconditional love, right, on the other side. And that is the vantage point now that your loved ones view you from. They can't not. It's impossible. Now, you, on the other hand, in human form, might still be seeing yourself and them through, the veil of illusion. Okay. But they are freed from that. So it's very important to know that they love you, that they hear you, that they support you, that they want you to be well, that they support you in your well-being. And they're also, as needed, here to help you grieve the loss. Now, helping you grieve the loss doesn't mean they're going to come and sit in your lap and not move on, right? That's not good for anybody. And so sometimes that happens too, where a soul is sort of, you're holding on and not facilitating their smooth transition to the other side. And I don't get the sense that that's happening with this person at all. And the guides say that can't really technically happen, right? But sometimes the only way they can describe it is bits and pieces of our energy does not cross over fully, or we don't let go all the way because we don't want to let, the human parts of ourselves down. And there's really nothing wrong with it, but there is oftentimes for many humans, they say, kind of a cooling off period where it's best to tend to your own grief without immediately trying to make contact with your loved ones. Okay. Because oftentimes the contact that you seek from the space of a broken heart, right, is not the kind of clean and pure contact that you're going to be able to receive, right, when you've moved a little further in your grieving process and they fully crossed over, and then you guys can connect from a new vantage point. Okay. And I hope I communicated that well, because it was partially their words and partially mine, but they say go ahead. Right. So oftentimes in human form, I'm going to say this again in my words, right? We're missing the human contact. We have some unresolved feelings about our loved ones that we want to have expressed. Maybe, we feel guilty about their loss, or we feel angry about their loss, or, we didn't feel like we had enough time with them, or we have some misgivings about that relationship that we had when they were in, human form. And all of these things can very most definitely complicate the relationship and our ability to connect with them in spirit, right? That's why some mediums will say, like, I can connect with your loved ones just fine, but sometimes it's hard for me to connect with my own, or it took some time, right? It's not instantaneous for all of us, right? It really depends on where you are from your own human vantage point. But the important thing, and this is how I responded to this person's email, and this is what I'm going to tell all of you, the important thing is to really honor yourself, right? And be true to yourself wherever you are in your grieving process, because you're exactly right where you are, right? So there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to change. And that part of your heart that might be hurting for that connection, unfortunately, what you're really hurting for is the human connection. You're really trying to make up a loss, right? That can't be made up by connecting with them in spirit form. It can be soothed, it can be eased, and your awareness and your connection and your love for them can absolutely be expanded when you're able to get there. But you're not necessarily going to get there from that point of loss or that point of grief, because even from a law of attraction standpoint, right, when you're hurting, when you're feeling a loss, it's hard for them to come in and be like, look, I'm right here. Right. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not a problem to solve. This is about soothing yourself, loving yourself, and knowing that they're with you. They're with you, right? And holding open that piece of faith, that piece of knowing, that piece of trust, because that is the most important first step to making that connection. To know that they're there, to trust that they're there, to look for the signs, to look for them in your dreams, to let them come to you however you can receive them. And in so doing, you will open up that pipeline and open up that channel for further communications. And you'll start to communicate with them from a new level. Because honestly, the soul or the spirit that you're connecting with when they cross over is not really the same one that you knew in human form. Now, the soul, the essence is the same. That doesn't change. That's who and what we really are. But there's going to be aspects of the personality that, though they can put them on, for your benefit to connect with you. Hey, remember when I used to do this, or I used to do that? And I've always been told that we have kind of soul personality to some degree too. So some of that is also reflected through our human form, but it's not a one-to-one correspondence. Right. And remember that when your spirits, when your family members, when your loved ones on the other side have this expanded perspective, right? They're just not the same person that you knew. There's so much more. There's so much more. And you're so much more. Right. And so they can help you connect to that part of yourself that really knows. Okay. So it's really a beautiful thing. But we really, really, really need to be patient with ourselves. Okay. And it's not just about raising your vibe, whatever that means, although we can raise our vibration on different topics and that can make us feel good. Right. But it's not because something's wrong with you in your grief. Okay. Grief is natural and normal. And we have to respect our own grieving process. We have to respect our own grieving process. Okay. And know that our loved ones are there. So, I want to end this episode, first of all, by sharing just a little bit more about my experience as a medium connecting with my loved ones, because I've talked about this a lot on the show, but I think it bears repeating again. And then I think I want to close with some concrete tips and tools that you all can use to connect with your loved ones in various ways, no matter where you are in the grieving process. Right. And remember, too, that sometimes consulting a professional medium can be really, 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 really helpful, even if you have a connection, right? Because the medium is going to be able to see things from a more neutral perspective. Okay. And it's the same reason why I can be highly intuitive and hear my guides all the time, and yet oftentimes I seek an outside perspective as well, right? Somebody else who's also tapped in, not because I need to make sure that they agree with me or I think somebody else is better at this than I am, but because no man's an island. And when we're in human form, we benefit from each other's perspectives. And again, sometimes when we're really in a situation or a problem or really activated about something, and there's nothing wrong with that, guys, we're human. It can be helpful for someone who has a different perspective to come in and tap us on the shoulder and say, "You've been looking here, friend, but why don't you look over there?" Right. And so sometimes I can simply receive messages from your loved ones that you can't hear yet, because you're looking this way. There's nothing wrong with the way that you're looking, right? But sometimes they want to nudge you in a different direction, and then it's going to expand your awareness. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with getting an intuitive reading or a mediumship reading, even if you have your own direct connection. If you feel called, do it. Do it. Okay. But that's not to say that you need a medium to connect, because you don't, because we all have these abilities. Okay. And we can all develop them. Okay. So for me, but a lot of it has to do, right, with your own emotional set point, where you are with respect to the loss. There's so many factors, and you have to be patient with yourself, right? I remember doing a workshop with a medium, and right after we'd both lost our parents. And as I've talked about, for me, when I lost my dad, it was quick, it was instantaneous. And we have a pretty clear channel of communication. And I'd done a lot of work with my relationship with my dad on this side, before he crossed. I think that really helped. And so the relationship was pretty clean. It was pretty clear. It was pretty easy. And the guys are saying there's a lot of factors that determine these things that I can't even explain to you right now. It's going to be different in everyone's circumstance, when it's going to be easy to make a connection and when it may be more complicated. But one of the factors is just where you are in the grieving process, and also the relationship you had with that person. Because this other medium said, I can't reach my mom at all. I can't reach my mom at all, and it's driving me crazy. And I saw her mom around her, and I saw all the signs her mom was giving her, but she was like this. Right. When my own mom passed, and I've shared this on the show before, much more complicated relationship and much less worked out, when we were both in bodies, right? There wasn't much space to work stuff out, with that one. And I also had a very uncomfortable, I was a little afraid of this one, both psychically and as a person, right? So my connection with her wasn't as strong or wasn't as direct. I didn't trust it. I, didn't trust her. And I know she was there. And I know that she's still working out a lot of stuff on the other side. And I know that she loves me and she supports me and that she's sorry, for a lot of things. So that's been beautiful to receive those messages. And I'd probably know that even if I didn't connect with her directly, because I understand that that's how things work. But it was definitely not instantaneous, and it's not as smooth as it is with my dad. And I respect that. I respect that. I don't need that. Right. I have other things. Right. And so when we are in grief or when we are processing, right, it's important to know you don't need that connection to move on, right? You want to take where things are flowing. You want to take where the comfort comes. You don't want to push or force or think something's wrong with you if something's not happening the way you think it should. You want to sit with yourself. You want to be where you are. You want to love yourself, and you want to get all the support that you need to feel good, or at least to feel better, right? Because sometimes it takes a while to feel good. That's the name of the game. It's not forcing or pushing anything. But I do want to end this episode by sharing a couple things that you can do, to facilitate that communication with your loved ones, right? And Some of these are particularly when the wound is kind of fresh and new. And by the way, there's no time and there's no time limit on grieving. So for some people, the wound can feel fresh and new, 15, 20 years after the loss. And for others, we're talking about months or days, right? Or weeks. But when you feel really emotionally activated, right? And you feel like, where are you? Where are you? Why can't I see you? Why can't I see you? There might be some emotional things that are blocking you, right? I had a client that lost their spouse in a really, really difficult way. And she had a lot of unprocessed anger, probably well deserved, right? And then underneath that anger, a lot of guilt, right? And because of those two things, it made her really hard to connect with him. Okay. Now, every time we were together, he would give her a sign. And he would always give her the sign, oddly enough, that he told her he was going to give her before he died because he was into this stuff. Right. And so many times when we were together and she was doing a reading, that sign would come through. So both of our eyeballs saw it. Right. But that wasn't enough to quell her grief because she was still angry at him and she was still hurting. And that is okay. Right. He was with her. I see that he's with her. He's hanging out right now saying, and he's telling me right now that things are going better. So namaste, right? But sometimes we can't feel a loved one's presence because we're still processing our other feelings. And if that's the case for you, number one, trust that they're there. Trust that they're there. Talk to them. Emote to them. Tell them how angry you are at them. Tell them what you're feeling. The really great thing about our loved ones in spirit form is, they got no ego left. So you're not going to hurt their feelings. They're not going to yell at you. They're not going to feel bad. You can feel whatever you want. And they're just going to hold that space for you. And they're going to say, I know, I see that. I know, I see that. I love you. I understand. I'm sorry. For real. Now, you may not be able to hear that with your ears, but you can trust that's what they're doing. So get it out. Get it out, talk to them. Don't be afraid. We often say, don't speak ill of the dead, but the dead don't care. The dead don't care, right? Get it off your chest. That's going to help you with your grieving process. And they're going to love you through it. They can't not. Okay. So that's the first one. The second tip is to look for those signs. Look for those signs, anything, a feather, a bird, a visitation, or dream about them in the night, smelling their cologne, remembering them in a certain situation or setting where you're like, oh God, I remember we used to do this together. Chances are when you have that moment, they're with you. They're remembering too. Okay. And allow yourself to notice that, to feel that. The guides say that oftentimes when you think of your loved one, right, especially when you think of them in a warm way, in a loving way, and sometimes not, but always in a warm, loving way, it means that you're connected with them. They're hearing you, they're feeling you, you're drawing them in, right? And they're remembering with you and they're loving you. They're loving you. So when you have those spontaneous, loving memories, just know that you're bringing them right there and they're sharing that with you. That's so beautiful. I'm so glad they shared that, right? And the more difficult ones, they say, they're with you on those too. Again, they may not see things the way that you see them anymore because they can't, right? So they're not going to hurt with you. Okay. That's a misnomer, right? It's my understanding, and I'm going to get this from the guides if they want to, that, there's something called a life review or something akin to a life review, right? Where you do see everything from everyone's perspective. But it's not suffering. It's just information. It's just understanding. And once they cross through that portal, they may still, there's no time. So everything's happening all at once, right? They may still at times go, ooh, I didn't see it that way, right? They're still learning from us and growing with us. And I've seen that again and again in my own relationships with my deceased loved ones. They're growing with us. They're just growing from an expanded or a different vantage point. Okay. But they're not hurting with you. They can't, but they feel for you and they love you and they don't want you to hurt. So it's important for you to know that. Okay. They're not turning over in their grave. They're not judging you. They're loving you. They can't not. So look for those signs and know when you feel them around you or you think about them in a warm way, it means they are there. They are doing this with you. And the last one, and this one's really interesting, they say, is to, this is so sweet, And I sometimes get this with kids too. You can do this as like an angel box, but they say like create a spirit box or a spirit journal. You could do it either way, right? And this is just a beautiful tribute. So the box, they say you can add anything to the box, that you can create a beautiful box, or it could be something. They said it could be something of theirs, but if that thing is like very emotionally charged, like if it's an emotionally charged object, like something, you know what I mean? That could be difficult. But if it's something that was like, your grandma gave you a music box and it was your favorite music box, and every time you think of her, it makes you happy, you could totally use that. But you could also create something new, and you can invite them to come and create that with you, because that's a really playful thing. And again, we connect best from a high vibe, right? And a high vibe is playfulness, it's freedom, it's not pushing, it's just playing. Okay. So this is a playful exercise that you can try to, or you can use to, enhance that connection with your loved ones. Okay. So they say you can get like a box, a shoe box. It can be an envelope. Could be, if you like to knit, it could be like a little knitting packet. It could be whatever you want, but creating some kind of vessel or container, right? It could also be a journal, they say, to kind of bring together all of your spirit signs and things from your loved one. Okay. And then if you find a feather, right, or a little heart rock, you can put it in that little packet or in that little box, right? Because you're starting to collect all of the energy and all of the gifts from your loved one. They say you can also put questions in there. Ask them questions like, I want to know how you're doing. Do you forgive me for this? Like, was that you who was walking with me at the beach when I felt a warm presence? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. If you think it's your loved one and it makes you feel good, I just say yes, that's them for sure. Um, right. But you can start to kind of collect these. And I love doing this too with my guides. And I call it an angel box or a guide box, right? Where you can put a question in there, you let it go. And then oftentimes, like in life, it'll come to you. It'll come to you. It might come to you in an intuitive reading or a podcast or from a friend's mouth, or you might have a dream about it, or you might just get a download, like an aha moment, right, in your mind. But they'll always answer us. So this is a playful way to get that communication flowing, right? And you can also write down all the things that you think were communications. That time when I saw a sunset and I thought you were with me, put it in there. Remember, friends, what we focus on, and invite your loved ones. They're saying this again and again in my ear. Invite your loved ones to do this with you. Make it a playful thing. Ask them, hey, would you like me to knit? Hey, would you like me to do a box? Trust whatever answer you get, because there's nothing wrong. There's no wrong answers. It's about you playfully connecting with them in a way that you can't really get it wrong. And you're just inviting them in to have fun with you. And that is a great energy to forge this connection. Okay. And remember, friends, what we focus on grows, right? So as you focus on where that connection is flowing, how it's working for you, how it's giving you satisfaction and love, and even just knowing, just holding that little bit of faith open that they are with you, even when you can't see them, right? This is going to facilitate the flow. It's going to facilitate the flow. So you can try this exercise if you want, as a way to facilitate that flow, that connection. They're also saying, this is an interesting one. They're also saying, are they really saying this? Yeah. They're saying you can also make your own spirit board. It's an akin to an Ouija board, but they're giving me very, very specific directions. This is weird, but this is what they're showing. And you can start to make like a little collage board of like different things. You sit down with your loved one, you make a collage board. It's like, I see like a little small poster board, and you get magazines or you could draw them to, or different kind of images. And they're showing it to me kind of like a scale, like a vibration scale. It's so sweet. And, but the images are things that will resonate with you, but also with your loved one. Okay. And so it could also be pictures of things, of memories that you have with them. And I see it kind of like a scale. So those of you who are listening to this, I see like kind of like a dial. Okay. It's like a vibratory dial. And on the top of the dial are these different images, right? And none of the images are bad. Okay. But it's a way, they say, of seeing, where am I with my grief today? And where am I with connecting with you? Okay. And it's also, they say, showing you the different ways that, the different bandwidths from with which you can connect. They say when you're at the lower end, which isn't bad, where I'm just feeling really sad today and I really miss you, right? And you find yourself there, what you want to ask your guides for is a big old hug. Just a hug. I want to feel you with me, loved one. I want to know that you're here. I want to have faith. They say when you're at the higher end, you're remembering all the good stuff you did together. You're remembering all the ways that they enhanced your life, right? And all the things that you learned from them and all the beautiful stuff. And you're so excited for them for their next adventure. You're on the higher end of that spectrum. Okay. And I see it kind of like a dial, and I see it with different images that could be things that you remember. They could be things cut out of a magazine. They could be a myriad of different things. You can do this with your loved ones, like sit down and make the dial. It might be very helpful. And then you can tune into where you're at and know what to ask for accordingly. Or you can just listen to what I'm saying right now and do this in your mind, right? But what they're showing me is at different phases, you really need of that process. And you can go back and forth throughout the course of a day with respect to them, right? You're going to need different things and you're going to connect in different ways, right? And if you're vibing at pure joy and freedom and allowing, well, then you can be like, hey, tell me about the spirit realm. What's it like over there? Right. But if you're feeling like the acute loss, or sometimes even below the loss, I'm feeling self-blame and judgment, or like I'll never find anybody else, or these things, then you just need that reassurance that they're there, that they love you, that all is well. And then it's going to get better. Okay. And so knowing where you're at on that dial at every moment will help you know which tools you need to use and how you need to connect. Okay. But anyhow, the last thing that they want to say is that we all long to connect with our loved ones in spirit form. And though they are always, 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 and more always there for us. Okay. They love us and they're always supporting us. And you have guides that support you. You have a huge, great crew of spiritual beings at your disposal 24/7 to support you on this human journey. And they're always, always there. And always the best one will come forward. And sometimes that's not your loved one, by the way. So always be open to, the best guides in the given moment will always come through. Right. And so sometimes you want to just be open to, do I have a grief guide right now that could help me? Right. That can be really important too. But they also say it's all right as well. Right. Like, loss does open the door to the other side, right? When our loved ones cross over, it's like a little invisible string that we have to the other side because we know they're there, right? And so it increases our understanding of the possibilities of support and love that's available to us, both in human and in heavenly form, right? And it's also important that you remember that you are here now in human bodies, okay? So connecting with our loved ones is not an escape, right, from being human. So make sure that you avail yourself of all the human supports and comforts as well, right? Remember, you are here to enjoy this human journey, every last bit of it, okay? And the moment you cross over, right, will be just the right moment that you have just, that ice cream cone, you've gotten every last, and it's, it keeps refilling itself. Right? You've gotten every last flavor out of it and you're ready to try something new. But while you're here, keep enjoying all those flavors, all those experiences. And so don't be afraid to ask for help from other humans and to really avail yourself of all of the services and support that are available to you on the human realm, as well as the spiritual realm, because the guides say those things are deeply intertwined. And when we can find the God in humanity, right? That's when our soul really shines. All right. So that's all I have for you guys today. This was a fun one. So grateful for this listener and her question. Grateful for each and every one of you. I hope that this one touched you all, and love you all very much. And namaste.